Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our third annual awards banquet. To start the night off, we have our special Metro Detroit Police and Fire pipes and drums, and following them will be the Shelby Township Police Department Honor Guard. Ms. Tracy Murray will sing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Tracy. If everyone can remain standing for one moment, I would like to observe a moment of silence for the police officers around the United States that lost their lives in 2018. like to introduce my executive staff, or our executive staff. Over to my right is Deputy Chief Mark Coyle. He's a senior member of our police department. I think Mark got hired, was it 91? So he's at 28 years and counting. And then to my left is Captain Jason Schmittler. And I think, are you the second senior member of the department? He's the second senior member of our department. So we'll talk a little bit about them later in the evening. But first thing I want to do is welcome to all the families and our Board of Trustees and our police officers for this special night. A lot of planning goes into this. Before I leave tonight, I will introduce my staff and the people that went into the actual planning, the ladies that planned this and do all our hard work behind the scenes. I want to give a special thank to our Board of Trustees. Over to my right, please raise your hand when I say your name. Rick and Carol Stathakis. And I know Stan Grote can't be here tonight. I think Sylvia was supposed to be coming. Michael Flynn and Tracy Murray. Lynn Wilhelm, and I think Steve is sick. Lisa Casali and her husband, Mr. and Mrs. John Vermeulen, and Vince Viviano. Today, Patty asked me, Patty's my assistant, you're going to hear about her later in the evening, and she asked me on Friday, have you written your speech yet? And everyone that knows me and the guys that have sat through my different presentations, I'm not good sitting down and reading a speech. I talk too fast, I start getting too excited, but if I know what I want to say, then I'm much better. So I said, I'll figure it out on Monday, during the day. So after talking to my deputy chief and captain, figure out what we wanted to say, I'm very comfortable with this. I want to talk about the accomplishments of our administration over the last 4 years. And I have to be honest with you, when I sat and looked at the stuff we've been able to implement, and I think the word is like positive change, where we change things and we don't have them trying to burn us out of our office. Because a lot of organizations, people don't like change. And let me tell you, police officers do not like change. So let me just start rattling off some of the stuff. I took over in January of 2015. I was appointed by our Board of Trustees. Rick Stathakis was a supervisor at that time. Mr. Flynn was still on the board, and so was Mr. Grote. The first thing I did was promote Mark Coyle to captain. I think that the list was expiring on February 1st, and we promoted him on January 31st at 7 p.m., so we had like 5 hours to spare. Well, I had met Mark going through the process to become chief. Mark and I met, and we exchanged phone numbers. We talked on the phone a few times, and I just saw something special in him. And also, it didn't help that a good friend of mine went to staff and command with Mark for 10 weeks. So, of course, I'm going to ask, what do you think of Mark? And he affirmed what I believed in Mark. So the first course of business was get Mark promoted. Then we assessed the police department, and we audited every faction of the agency. We were short-staffed. We had 60 police officers, including me, with a growing population, currently at 79,000 plus people. We currently have a sworn staff today, I'm proud to tell you, of 73 police officers, and we also have 2 in the police academy. That's a 25% increase from just 4 years ago today. Our goal is to get to 80 police officers in 2020 and float at that number until our Section 2 is developed on our north end. We had a tenuous relationship with our governing body, the Board of Trustees, before I was hired. They hired me, I believe, to fix that and build up that relationship. The first thing we did as an administration is what we installed is we take care of and value our people. That's first and foremost what we do in our administration. First and foremost, and everything else is second. I don't mind telling you this. Our staff was bottled up. We had talented people who were kept on a leash. What we did, we identified talent, unleashed them. Our equipment was dated and insufficient to deal with real and current problems. We partnered with our Board of Trustees to move us well into the 20s. Let me just name a few. Recently, we purchased a machine called the Faro machine, $50,000. There's only 2 agencies in Macomb County that have this machine, the Macomb County Sheriff's Department and us. What it does at any major crime scene, whether it be a robbery, a murder, a fatal accident, it takes literally millions and millions of points of interest and pictures for a future prosecution. So we have a staff of our evidence technicians who are highly trained to use this machine. It's very sophisticated, and what we're finding out now is we're getting phone calls from bigger departments than us asking if we can send our Faro machine down with our different evidence technicians. So something we're very proud of. Another thing we did is we brought a machine called the True Narc. Back in the day, if you arrested somebody for narcotics, okay, marijuana, heroin, cocaine, guess where they are in the morning? out the door, goodbye. We had to let them go because the prosecutor has a certain standard of testing. It has to be tested by the state police. So Captain Schmiller, Deputy Chief Coyle, came to me and said, if we buy this machine, the prosecutor's office will acknowledge this as sufficient testing, and we won't have to let our people go anymore. Let me tell you something. Our Board of Trustees is very conservative, and as soon as I told the supervisor about this, he said, done. He didn't care what the price was. It was cheap, $25,000. Now when we arrest these guys in the street with drugs, they stay in jail. Body cameras. We have stacked up back in administration right now. We just purchased 80 body cameras for all our police officers, but not for reasons you think. We trust our officers. We believe in them. Our body cameras are to protect our police officers from all these people making false allegations, okay? We've had several critical incidences in the past, and we decided, we tried to push this off as long as possible. We waited 4.5 years. Our neighbors have it in Macomb Township, Washington Township, Clinton Township, just in our immediate area. They're all covered with body cameras, and I'm sure that their administration put those in for altruistic intentions. We definitely did. I want you to know that. We trust and believe in our police officers, so understand. And let me tell you one more thing I thought was interesting. Not one person in the entire police department, not one union representative, nobody came in to discuss why are we getting body cameras. So what that tells me is they believe in us, and not only have we established trust with our Board of Trustees, but also with our police officers. Every one of our police vehicles is armed with an AR-15 counter-assault weapon. No explanation necessary. Every police officer has their own police radio, their own individual radio, no more pool equipment. Every police officer has a brand new taser, no more pool equipment. We are currently planning to order and issue every police officer a cutting-edge handgun with a backup weapon also. Every police vehicle has a less than lethal shotgun in it. And obviously none of this is possible without the support of our Board of Trustees. We're able to open doors to supplemental but critical training, which includes regular use of the CREST facility. It's a cutting-edge training facility in Oakland County where our officers go there and do something called dynamic simulations. We're going to be going there in July and having a big operation. One of the big things going on right now, one of the crises in our American society is a mental health crisis. And there doesn't a day that goes by without our police officers having to commit people. And you would be scared if I told you the ages of the people we have to commit. It's really scary. And they're getting younger and younger every day, and there's not a day that goes by that we're not dealing with these people. So our officers are going to be trained in how to deal with them in all different situations out of the CREST facility. When I was hired, there was no use of social media whatsoever. I stand before you today and I challenge you to find any police department in the area of comparable size that has a social media presence like the Shelby Township Police Department. Good luck with that. We have an addition and renovation of our existing building, 7,100 square feet added on, and then also we're renovating our existing space. This all started from Ron Mix, our fleet coordinator for the last 17 years. I was walking into a meeting with Rick, and he said, "Hey, Chief, we need some space around here. Like, I have no room to put anything." I said, "Okay." And I think Ron was talking about closet space, but we ended up getting enough space to cover and handle our growing police department and all the different services we're offering now. Something very important, uniformity of our fleet. When I walked in the door, we had Chevys, Chryslers, Fords, Dodge, Packards, gray, blue, yellow, green, every color. I was, what is going on here with the fleet? So I called Ron in. I said, pick a vehicle out. Ron, pick a vehicle out, pick a color, move forward. By the end of this year, all our vehicles, Ford Explorers, black and white, period. People, residents identify that's a Shelby Township police vehicle. We know it. And this is one of the reasons we put it in. And also for some other reasons, for some liability reasons for our police officers, so they're not getting in a different car all the time with different gears and such. We put in a cadet program, which I believe in my heart, 20, 30, 40 years down the road will be the jewel of this police department. We couldn't find enough highly qualified applicants, and we decided to partner with young people. And we tossed it out there, and the first time we put it out, we had 115 people apply. So let me give you a comparison. To our police officer, when we put that out, we have about 40 people apply. So we're getting 3 times as many young people wanted to be cadets as they did police officers. So we had our first batch of cadets come in the door. Instead of interviewing somebody and hiring them and buying them and owning them for the next 20, 25, 30 years, now we get to look at them up close and see their work ethic and their character. And let me tell you right now, it's priceless. our first day, we had the 6 cadets in my office lined up just to meet and greet, shake hands, and one of the cadets couldn't look me in the eye and shake my hand. Looking down at the floor when you're meeting your chief of police, I mean, think about how concerned I was. You have to be able to talk to people in our profession. So that cadet on his own is no longer with us, and we're not tough guys to deal with. Trust me, we're very fair with everyone. But the bottom line is this program, we would have never picked that up in a hiring thing. We would have sat and interviewed them, hired them, and then now we're able to observe them up close for months on end and decide if we want to own them. So I'd like to thank our board of trustees. I was coming to them with some flimsy cost. How much you want to pay them? I said, I don't know, 10, 12 bucks. No, pay them 15. Get the best people possible. So thank you. Collaboration with our schools, our SRO program. We now have a police officer in both high school. We're up there at all times. And yes, they are also armed with weapons to protect the children. We strategically picked people we knew would protect children. Don't get me wrong, I was looking for officers who can get along with the administration, but the number one thing I needed to trust people. Officer Jake Lucas and James Nobeldorf, I trust them. We trust them. We know if something happens, they're going to take care of business in that school. Everything else is fluff, if that makes any sense. And they're working very hard. They're working with the administration. They're working with the kids. They're doing a great job, and the administration loves them. But for my own peace of mind, for Deputy Chief Coyle's peace of mind, for Captain Schmiller, okay, they have people, police officers that are well-armed and well-trained in those schools. It's priceless. Thank you, men. We've partnered with the Macomb Auto Theft Squad. We made a deal that even Deputy Chief Coyle couldn't refuse. He doesn't like our police officers. He wants our guys in our town policing the roads, and God bless them. I agree with that. Macomb County Auto Theft came in. We'll pay half somebody's salary. We'll give him a car. We'll pay all his overtime. We'll take all your auto theft cases, everything you have, if you let us have this body. We'll pay half his benefits. So I said, DC Coyle, what do you say to that? And he smiled. Let him go. So Kevin Bailey's with Matt's. Same thing with DEA. We have a police officer signed down to the DEA who's doing incredible work. You know, all the other stuff has to be done, if you know what I'm saying, I don't know the word I'm looking for, the PR stuff. They're really trying to help. I want people arrested. I want to go after the drug dealers that are pumping this poison into our community. And that's one of the reasons our Shelby Township police officer has a badge that says DEA, and that why he has access to the federal computer system, and he can go anywhere in the United States of America and beyond our borders. And this is one of our own officers. We pay his salary, they pay his overtime, and we get benefits, tremendous benefits. For example, last week, Patty came in my office. Chief, we just got a check for $212,000 from our work in the DEA, from Officer Dave Jack Main's work. Excuse me, now Sergeant Dave Jack Main's work. $212,000. This is just one little tiny example. Now we can take this money and use it on training, weapons, equipment, whatever we need, whatever we decide. We installed our 4 pillars of excellence, and we spread it all around the building. Teamwork, preparedness, professionalism, and pride. We sell it every chance we get. Follow these 4 pillars, and you will never have a problem with our police department. Not to leave our dispatchers out, who we value greatly. Okay. We just purchased brand new 911 equipment. The old equipment will be used for the backup center. We installed the traffic unit. Every complaint I got as a new chief was about traffic. They had one guy in the traffic unit, and he had double duty, so we put a unit into place. Road officers are relieved. They can handle the police runs and 911 calls. We have a traffic unit to handle our accidents and protect our roadways. We installed a community policing team. Led by Sergeant Brandon Dowdy. They have every kind of tool you can imagine. Police bicycles, segways. They're doing security surveys at different locations. They trained all our township, partnering with our tactical response unit and active assailant response. If you're sitting in your office, what do you do if somebody walks in? Or our community policing team and our tactical response unit have partnered, and now they're doing training around the township. They're going into our houses of worship. They're going to the library. They're going to bars, restaurants. Anybody who raises their hand and says, I need this help, we have highly trained people that we've gotten trained to go up and train people and help them what to do. And the training has gotten a tremendous amount of response, positive response. We put in a tactical response unit to deal with all the craziness going on in the world. Under the guidance of Deputy Chief Coyle, who had experience with Macomb County's team, he put Lieutenant Bill Wiley in charge of the unit, and Bill has taken this unit to a level of literally greatness. I'm proud of all of our guys. This is who we break glass in case of an emergency. This is the police call when they need the police. We call our tactical response unit. I see Lieutenant Wiley in the back. I want to commend him for what he's doing with our team. in 30, 40 years, I told you the gem of our police department will be that cadet program. Right now, the gem of this police department is this awards banquet. I challenge anybody here, everybody knows people in law enforcement, to find anyone in the state of Michigan that does anything like this. I've been to them. Let me tell you what you're going to get. A half bottle of water from Costco and a cookie from Costco on your way out the door. Okay, so understand this is love up here from the three of us and our administration, our administrative staff, and that's from the heart. And the bottom line is this night doesn't happen without Mr. Gene DiAugustini over here to my right. Gene, please raise your hand, or please stand up, actually. This is the third year in a row that Mr. DiAugustini has sponsored this event, and like I said, it's not possible without him. And this all started, let me tell you the story. I have to clear everything with Rick, and I went over and talked to him. Rick is my boss. Rick Stathak is the township supervisor. And I don't call him Rick to his face, by the way. This is probably the first time he's ever heard me refer to him as that. And I went and I said, look, I want to have this ceremony. I want to do this for our guys, this banquet. And I know we can't use township funds. What should I do? He said, well, let me make a few phone calls. Whatever. Maybe we'll get like 7, 8, 9, 10 guys to pitch in $500 a piece. And so the bottom line is he called Mr. D, and Mr. D said, stop, I'll take care of it myself. I don't need 10 guys to pitch in. So we're very appreciative and grateful of your generosity, Mr. D. I begged you for the last 2 years to come. You've been in Florida, so thank you for showing up tonight. I'd also like to thank the LaHood and Belcastro families, the owners of the Palazzo Grande, and their wonderful staff. They do a tremendous job. I know last year I made a mistake and I forgot to thank the actual staff, so I see you all in the back. Thank you so much for making this a great evening for us. We promoted Captain Jason Schmittler over to my left, and we added him to our executive staff. Jason was a trusted member of our leadership team, but he did not have the formal title. So on a daily basis, Jason was in Deputy Chief Coyle's office with myself, and it just got too much. I have this guy running a million different directions, okay? And I have Patty running a million different directions, and I said, we need some help here. What are we going to do? And we went out and put out a testing for captain, and a couple of different guys competed, and Jason ended up getting promoted, and he's been a great fit for us. And so now the three of us solve our problems together. How we're going to do this tonight, a little change in protocol. Captain Schmittler is going to announce all of the civilian awards with help from my 9-year-old son. And Deputy Chief Coyle is going to announce all the police officer awards. And then at the end of the evening, the 4 big awards, I'll announce them.
January 15th, 2018, Jacob Turnova was shopping at Home Depot. He found a bank envelope with $2,800 in the parking lot. Jacob drove to the police station and reported it. Officer Sorbo notified the store. A short time later, the grateful owner had the money returned. Due to Jacob's honesty and unselfish act, he was able to return a large sum of the money to its rightful owner. For this reason, the department presents a civilian award to Jacob.
Jacob, please come up.
Maureen Mulder, please come up. 4 years ago, Maureen Mulder offered to host an Honor Guard fundraiser. She participated and donated to the police and military charities which benefited their families. Maureen demonstrates continued support for the Honor Guard and those who died in the line of duty. She's an avid runner and proposed, organized, promoted, and hosted a 5K run here in the township. It's now known as Back to Badge 5K. And the rest is history. We celebrated the 3rd annual run. Every participant has a fallen officer assigned to them. The event gets larger every year, just like tonight, and raises thousands of dollars. Maureen put hard work and countless hours into organizing the events on her own. Giving attitude and sense of pride in law enforcement is second to none. Honor Guard is proud to call her a teammate and friend. For these reasons, the department presents her a civilian award. January 9th, officers responded to a call of a missing 89-year-old female. The husband was extremely worried. His wife walked away during the night. With the assistance of many other jurisdictions, officers were searching not only on foot but in the air. WWJ reporter Mike Campbell covered the story from the scene. Mike located the woman standing near a parked car in the subdivision several hours into the search. She was disoriented and cold from the weather, but otherwise in good health and spirits. Mike was determined to see the case through. He actually drove the husband to the hospital so the husband could be with the wife. Due to his preparedness and persistence in assisting the community, Mike Campbell was able to locate the missing female and save her from dangerous cold in our January unfavorable weather conditions. Mike demonstrated teamwork, dedication, and professionalism. He was a hero on our Facebook. For these reasons, we present Mike with the Civilian Award. Next, two of our own, Fleet Coordinator Ron Mix and Fleet Assistant Drew Gorisimo. September 19th, officers responded to a call for a missing elderly male who suffered from dementia and diabetes. The male was missing for over 1 hour. Officers were conducting an extensive search of the area. Ron and Drew dropped everything that they were doing and helped out on their own. Both located the man, weak and disoriented, in a heavily wooded area. The victim was treated by medical staff and returned to his concerned wife. Due to Ron and Drew's initiative to help search the area, the elderly man was located before his condition worsened. For their efforts and perseverance, the department presents a civilian award to both. Chaplain Mansfield, please come up. You know it's a bad day when you get busted by the chaplain for weed. July 9th, the chaplain was stopped at a red light in his personal car when a vehicle pulled up next to him reeking of marijuana. Fearing the operator was possibly driving under the influence of, drugs, he called dispatch. Dispatch put out a BOL and officers located the vehicle and observed erratic driving. Officers arrested the driver, confirming the chaplain's suspicions. Search of the vehicle recovered a duffel bag containing 1.6 pounds of marijuana. Due to the chaplain's alertness and concern for the public safety, a dangerous driver was arrested and his illegal activity halted. For this reason, the chaplain, we present him a civilian award. The next award of Friends at the Sheriff Department, Deputy Craig Marzewski, Deputy Scott Montgomery, and Deputy Eric Zdanowicz. April 11th, dispatch received a call of a large fight at Boston's Hall and Hayes. 3 subjects started a fight inside the bar. There was many people involved. One was armed with a knife and a gun was implied. Several people were injured. The deputies were already in the area. They monitored us on the radio and they responded due to the serious nature of the call. Upon the deputies' arrival, 3 suspects fled. Deputy Marzewski and Deputy Montgomery quickly secured 2 of the suspects. The third was subdued after being tased by Deputy Zdanowicz. The deputies' response to the incident was a testament to the brotherhood of law enforcement. All displayed the utmost professionalism. For these reasons, our department presents an Officer from Another Department award. This award, we have a couple civilians and department members. Bartosz Nowak, Ross Overy, Sergeant Brandon Dowdy, Officer Schaffnitz, Contact Carol Smith, Brett London, and Michael Duvall. May 13th, officers responded to Orchard Crest and Melton for a suicidal female. Officer met the callers, Bartosz Nowak and Ross Overy. Both were concerned about a text from a coworker. They went to check on her, but the address was incorrect. Contact Smith, London, and Duvall utilized our resources at the department and tracked down the correct address. Sergeant Dowdy and Officer Schaffnitz went to the apartment and made entry when nobody answered the door. The female was located in the bathroom. She was standing next to the bathtub full of water. She was armed with an 8-inch knife. She had self-inflicted injuries, and she was prepared to end her life. Sergeant Dowdy and Officer Shaftnitz were able to convince the female to drop the knife. She was taken into protective custody, which was much needed help. Bartos and Ross displayed uncommon efforts in checking the well-being of their friend and coworker. Their intuitions and response to the suspicious text prevented further harm and loss of life. Therefore, both are deserving of a Civilian Hero Award. Dispatch displayed skill and determination in their efforts to obtain information from the callers, locate the correct address, and disseminate information to the officers. The officers displayed calm professionalism in the face of a knife-wielding woman and were able to prevent further harm to all. The department members are worthy of a Unit Letter Commendation Award.
At this point in time of the ceremony, I'd like to move to the officers who earned every one of these awards. Oftentimes we say awards are given, none of these are given. Everyone was earned by an individual or a group in efforts. So on May 5th, 2018, Officer O'Neill was returning to the township after dropping an injured animal off to an animal rescue in Bruce Township. As he was driving, he noticed a dog standing in the middle of McKay Road. Stopping to check on the dog and locating an address on the dog's collar, he proceeded to the house on McKay. Upon approaching the house, Officer O'Neill noticed the screen door was shut, but the main door was open. He knocked on this screen door, but no one came to the door. Officer O'Neill became suspicious and concerned for the welfare of the occupant. He opened the door and yelled inside. He heard a faint sound of a woman inside calling for help. After notifying dispatch, he entered the home and discovered an elderly female in her 80s lying at the bottom of a basement step. She was injured. She stated that she had fallen down the stairs the previous evening and was unable to get up. Officer O'Neill stayed with the female and requested an EMS assistance. The resident was later transported to the hospital and treated for her injuries. Due to Officer O'Neill's thoroughness, determination, and initiative, he was able to prevent further harm and possible loss of life to this elderly female. For his actions and his persistence, he is awarded the Commendation Award. Officer O'Neill. I believe Officer Phil Young is the only one in attendance. This is for Officers Michelle Adamick, Officer Robert Wathen, Robert V. Paraskis, and Officer Nicole Sinistai. So Officer Young, if you could come on up. Yeah, the chief wants to make note that those individuals that are not present tonight, most of them are doing the due diligence of protecting and keeping us all safe. Without their tireless effort, this event could not happen, so please a round of applause for all those people that are working. On August 13, 2018, the department received a call from a township resident stating there were several people unresponsive from a drug overdose. Shelby Township Police and Fire and EMS personnel were dispatched to the scene. Officers V. Paraskis, Wathen, Sinistai, Adamick, and Young responded quickly to the scene. They observed people unresponsive laying near a suspected cocaine laced with fentanyl. Officers began rendering aid to the subjects. Officer Adamick administered chest compressions to the female that was unresponsive, as another officer administered Narcan to 2 others. 2 of them were transported to the hospital and were able to recover. Subsequently, Officer Adamick was exposed to fentanyl, which required treatment at the hospital. Thankfully, she did not sustain any life-threatening injuries or illnesses. Officers Wathen completed the evidence tech work, while Officers V. Paraskis promptly gathered information to help complete this investigation. Officers Sinistai and Young secured the home and aided the Detective Bureau while they responded to the scene. All officers responding put their lives at risk. Responding to this call, they rendered aid to overdose subjects and secured the scene for an investigation. The patrol shift worked as a team. It showed great perseverance in life-saving and investigative efforts. For these reasons, Officers Adamick is receiving a Commendation Award. Officers Young, Wathen, Viperaskis, Sinistai are receiving a letter of commendation. Congratulations. Sergeant Matt Barr, Officer Jason Armstrong, Detective James Melchewski, Officer Joe Stuglin, and Officer Jordan Hoy to the stage. And I believe Sergeant Barr is working tonight. On April 28, 2018, the United States Secret Service requested assistance from the Macomb County Mobile Field Force for a presidential visit by our current president, President Trump. He was scheduled to make a rally in a venue in Washington Township where the crowd of 35,000 people were expected. Organizations such as Antifa had announced that they planned to protest this event. The Mobile Field Force Command deployed 4 squads, including a squad comprising the members of the Shelby Township Police Department, to deter these protesters. The presence of these officers in full gear took the momentum away from the protesters and allowed the rally to continue peacefully. For their part in continued success in the Macomb County's Mobile Field Force, Sergeant Matthew Barr, Jason Armstrong, Detectives James Melchewski, Officers Joseph Stuglin and Hoy are being presented with a unit letter of commendation. Congratulations, gentlemen. At this point, I need Sergeant Brian Bunch, Detective Kevin Triorgi, Detective Charles Johnson, Officers Ronald Lehman and Daniel Price to the stage. On August 8th, a report came into the department of an armed robbery at the Family Video store in Van Dyke. The suspect implied that he had a gun during this robbery. Detective Kevin Triorgi and Ronald Lehman responded to investigate and assist patrol at the scene. Evidence techs Officer Daniel Price and Brian Bunch at the time were able to recover a latent fingerprint from items handled by this suspect. Detective Lehman later received a tip and was able to identify the suspect who had a parole absconder warrant and was a parole absconder. He was picked up on this warrant along with his cell phone. The diligent work by Detective Charles Johnson executed a search warrant on this cell phone. This showed a Google search linking to the suspect to the crime scene and a GPS location on a tower behind the family video at the time of the robbery. The suspect was identified, booked, and arrested. The officers and detectives showed great teamwork and pride in their job, resulting in a superior police work to apprehend a dangerous felon who was linked to a second robbery in the city of Sterling Heights. Without the determination of this team, this suspect would still be a threat to public safety today. For their initiative, their alertness, and the performance of their duty, Sergeant Brian Bunch, Detective Kevin Triorgi, Detective Charles Johnson, and Officer Ronald Lehman and Dan Price are awarded a department unit letter of citation. Congratulations. At this time, I would like Lieutenant Pat Barnard, Lieutenant Beth Walsh, Sergeant Matt Barr, Sergeant Brandon Dowdy, Sergeant Brian Bunch, Detective Rob Heisler, Detective Ron Weiss, Detective Chris Killip, Detective Charles Johnson, Officers Jason Zuck, Officers Justin Goebel, Officer Paul Sorbo, Officers Dan Price, Jordan Hoy, and Jacob Lucas. If this isn't an epitome of teamwork, I don't know what is. So everyone to the stage, please. On March 17, 2018, Shelby Township Police were dispatched to what was later discovered to be a staged suicide in the Crystal Lake apartment complex. A deceased female with a gunshot wound to her head was discovered inside this apartment. Officers secured the scene and took control of this highly intoxicated husband. Officers suspected foul play due to the entire crime scene and the actions and demeanor of the husband. He continued to state that his wife had shot herself. The officers used good police intuition and investigative techniques to determine the death to be suspicious. The husband attempted to destroy evidence at one point, so the Detective Bureau was notified and requested to the scene. Search warrants were secured for the apartment, and officers started collecting the evidence. Officers Price took photographs and video of the scene. Officer Bunch, now Sergeant Bunch, assisted with deputies with measurements of the crime scene using our high-tech Faro machine, a crime mapping system. Detective Weiss took over as the lead investigator on this case and did an excellent job. The husband was charged with homicide and convicted of murder too. Commanders, officers, and detectives from this department should be commended for this excellent police work and the tireless effort they put into establishing this case. Countless hours of scene preservation, interviews, evidence collected, and paperwork were needed to ensure that this murderer was properly convicted. All officers showed great pride and professionalism in their job and to the service of justice. For these reasons, these officers are being awarded the unit letter of commendation. Congratulations. At this time, I would like to call Detective Kevin Bailey to the stage. For those of you who are not aware, Detective Kevin Bailey is the detective assigned to the MATS team, or the Macomb Auto Theft Squad. His tireless efforts in the summer of 2018 in many surrounding communities where we were experiencing multiple theft of semi-truck batteries. Detective Bailey was placed in charge of all of these cases, and during his investigation, he determined that the suspect was driving a blue Chevy Traverse with stolen license plate. Through a law enforcement database, Detective Bailey was able to identify the suspect by linking him to several hundred pounds of scrapped semi-truck batteries. The suspect was located and arrested by Detective Bailey and the members of the MATS team. Detective Bailey was able to interview the suspect, who admitted, and that's no small feat to get a confession, so he should be commended on that just alone. He admitted the responsibility to truck batteries and thefts. The suspect was linked to 21 cases throughout the county of Macomb for thefts of semi-truck batteries and was responsible for a total of 116 battery thefts, totaling in excess of $17,000 to $23,000 in lost property. Due to his initiative in the performance of his duty as an auto theft detective, he was able to preserve property, prevent semi-truck owners from suffering more loss, solve numerous cases, and arrest the suspect responsible for these crimes. Because of his actions, Detective Kevin Bailey is awarded a letter of commendations. Congratulations. I got it. At this time, I would like to call Officer Andrew Bohm to the stage. On January 1st of 2018, Officer Andrew Bohm was on patrol west on Auburn Road near Woodall. Officer Bohm noticed a vehicle in a snowbank on the shoulder of Auburn Road. He stopped to check on any possible occupants, and in the driver's seat, he discovered an adult male with his eyes open but unresponsive. Believing the male's current condition was a drug-induced situation, Officer Bohm alerted dispatch to have EMS personnel respond to the scene. Officer Bohm removed the male from the vehicle, safely laying him down on the ground, and administered department-issued Narcan. After EMS arrived, they loaded the male into the ambulance, where he began to recover and admitted to taking heroin. The male was transported to the hospital to recover. Due to Officer Bohm's alertness, initiative during this incident, and an attempt to preserve life, Officer Andrew Bohm is awarded the letter of commendation. Congratulations. At this time, Lieutenant Jeffrey Bellamo, Sergeant Jason Armstrong, Sergeant Brian Bunch, Officer Scott Phelps, and Officer Andrew just come back. And also Comtech Michelle Pecora. She is sick tonight, so she cannot attend. And I would like you all to the stage. On November 10th, Comtech Michelle Pecora received a 911 call from a female traveling southbound on M53 near 23 Mile Road. The female caller told her that her 83-year-old father had stopped breathing. Michelle advised her to pull over and began providing her with CPR instructions. All available police units were dispatched, including the Shelby Township Fire Department, with Officer Andrew Bohm and Sergeant Jeff Bellamo arriving first on the scene. They were able to move the male to the ground and start administering CPR. Officers Jason Armstrong, Scott Phelps, and Brian Bunch then arrived on scene to help with rotating chest compressions. Officer Armstrong was able to administer rescue breaths, while Officer Bunch retrieved an AED and connected it to the victim. A shock was administered along with rescue breaths until the fire department arrived. The male later regained a pulse and was admitted to the ICU in stable condition. Officers then assisted the female caller by driving her to the hospital so she could recover from the stress of this incident. Due to their combined efforts in removing the male subject from the vehicle, providing CPR and rescue breaths, along with utilizing an AED, Lieutenant Bellomo, Sergeant Jason Armstrong, Sergeant Brian Bunch, Officer Scott Phelps, Officers Andrew Bohm, were able to save the life of this 83-year-old male and are awarded a second-degree life-saving award. Due to ComTech Michelle Pecora advising the woman to pull over, along with providing CPR instructions and dispatching officers to the scene, she has been awarded the letter of commendation. Congratulations. At this time, I need Sergeant Jason Armstrong and Officer Phil Young to the stage. On June 27, 2018, dispatch received a call reporting 2 male subjects looking into vehicles in the area of Bell Arbor Drive. Then Officer Armstrong and Officer Young were dispatched to the area. Upon arrival, Officer Young identified himself as an officer, but the subject fled on foot. They observed this male with a flashlight upon exiting a motorhome. The subject then disappeared from the area. Upon his return to the area, he observed another individual exiting another motorhome. While assisting on the perimeter search, Officer Armstrong observed a male with a backpack riding a bike. Stopping this individual, he observed a flashlight turned on in his pocket. Along with the clothing being wet and grass covered, Officer Young arrived to assist upon attempting to place the subject into custody. The arrested male began fighting and grabbed onto Officer Young's gun, his service weapon, attempting to pull it from its holster. They were able to successfully take this subject to the ground and place him in custody. Upon searching the subject, they located multiple stolen items. For their diligence, their action, Sergeant Armstrong and Officer Young are awarded a meritorious citation. At this point in time, that concludes our awards part of the ceremony. We do have one more phase before the chief gets to the big awards. About 4 years ago, the chief came to me and said that he really wanted to do something that honored everyone just for their service. I call it the Cal Ripken Award. Coming to work every day and doing your job is tough. This is no easy profession. So at this point in time, I want to turn the award ceremony back over to Captain Schmittler because we're going to recognize those people who have reached milestones in their years of service. So these are the Years of Service Award. This is for being consummate professionals every day, doing the due diligence, coming to work and serving this community with professionalism. Captain Schmittler.
Dan Price, please come up. Well, Dan comes up. Last year, the DC presented me with my 25-year coin. In the days to follow, I reflected, and even I smiled about it. All the good times here. Don't be in a hurry to collect your coins and leave. Many people retired, some of our good friends in the last couple of years, and they'll tell you they miss it. Don't wish it away, make it memorable. Congratulations, Dan.
Congratulations.
15-year, Jim Melcheski and Kevin Trewergy. 20-year anniversary, Beth Walsh, Terry Hogan, Ron Lehman, and Scott Simpson. And a 25-year, Mike Duvall, come up please. Tonight it's my honor to present Mike Duvall with his 25-year anniversary coin. This is a tremendous achievement and milestone. Mike is our senior dispatcher. He's a consummate professional. He's devoted to their union, training, department, and his family. 25 years working as a dispatcher speaks to his high level of commitment, pride, and expertise. Mike continues to provide exemplary service to Shelby Township. Mike is a reserve police officer and volunteer EMT for the city of Richmond. He's truly dedicated to public service and giving back to the community. Congratulations, Mike.
We're down to 4 awards. At the beginning of the program, it got a little bit long-winded. I think we went about 10 minutes over. The good news is we're way ahead of schedule, so we will be done by 8:30. The first award is our Civilian Award, and here's how this Civilian of the Year Award, or I should say non-sworn employee, Correct. Or non-sworn employee, right? That's the best way to word it. So here's what we do. Every year, we take nominations from everybody in the building, including our commanders, officers, anybody who wants to write someone up. We encourage our lieutenants to make sure at least one person from their shift writes up somebody in every category. We have 4 categories. Civilian of the Year, which is also non-sworn employee, Police Officer of the Year, Commander of the Year, and then Detective of the Year. So Deputy Chief Coyle, Captain Schmidler, and I, the 3 of us, we go into the office and close the door, and then Patty starts burning dark smoke out of the oven, and she keeps it burning until we come out with the 4 winners. And a lot of serious discussion in there, and we always make sure that we are acknowledging the right people, although there's many worthy people each year that get nominated, and obviously we can only select one. So Patty and I have been together. She's my executive assistant for just over 4 years, and truthfully, I didn't write Patty up for this award, and I kind of thought to myself, Patty will get this award when probably real close to the end of her tenure. When she's ready to be done, I figured we would reward her with this, because you can ask anybody in the building that works for our police department. Patty is an extremely hard worker, dedicated to this agency. Stan Grote, who's not here tonight, made a comment in one of the budget hearings. Patty was talking for us on something, and Stan looked at her and said, we should make you chief. And she chuckled, and let me tell you, if he only knew, okay? If he only knew the truth. Patty Koenig is a hardworking, Dallas, make that stop. Patty Koenig is a hardworking, dedicated employee who handles many administrative duties on a daily basis. Patty is always accommodating and friendly when she is approached with a question or problem. Over the last several years, the department has been expanding and improving with many changes. She has been on top of all of these changes, guiding the department through a large growth spurt. She is the go-to person for any task or project that needs to be done, completed department-wide. Patty's job title of executive assistant does not give due recognition to the value of her input and knowledge of the inner workings of our department. She is always professional, with no complaints of the ever-changing and challenging work she is required to do. Always dedicated, Patty Koenig takes pride in her profession and in the organization, and that's why she has earned a 2018 Non-Sworn Employee of the Year. Patty, please come up. There was an article in the Fox News, and it was about a guy who put an advertisement out for an assistant. And I guess the advertisement he put out, it went viral. And I started reading the advertisement, and I was reading it, and it looked like, okay, the guy had all these expectations of what he wanted out of his assistant, and for whatever reason, people ridiculed this. They thought it was ridiculous that anybody would ask for all this stuff out of their assistant, that is. So I started reading all the different categories, okay, she does this for me, this. I didn't think it was amusing at all. So I sent it out to all the women in our administration to read the article, and they knew why I sent it to them. This is who Patty is. Literally, in our police department, Patty is Superwoman. I can tell you that right now. And we couldn't be happier to have you. Congratulations, Patty. Very, very well earned, I'll tell you that. Next is Officer Paul Sorbo, who's won our Police Officer of the Year. Officer Paul Sorbo has demonstrated the ability to perform his job while continuously going above and beyond what is expected of him. He has received 10 positive tracking entries for 2018, including supervisor and citizen recognition and letters of appreciation. Paul was involved in a traffic stop of an intoxicated 25-year-old. Further investigation found narcotics and paraphernalia and 5 firearms, 2 of which were under investigation by the Michigan State Police. There was information that the suspect was under investigation for a strong-arm robbery by another police department. Due to the alertness and thorough investigation, a dangerous felon was arrested. Paul also displayed a big heart in 2018 and is a true servant of the community. Dispatch received a 911 call from an elderly man about his furnace not working on a very cold day. Paul was dispatched to the location and found the indoor temperature of the house to be 32 degrees. Paul contacted Mike's Heating and Cooling to have them check out the furnace. The furnace was repaired, and Paul asked about possible payment, offering to pay himself with his own credit card, and because the citizen did not have the resources to pay the bill for himself. Mike's Heating and Cooling donated the parts and service free of charge. Paul is shown to be an asset to this department and the police profession altogether. There are just a few examples of why Officer Paul Sorbo is being named 2018 Police Officer of the Year. Paul, come on up. I'm glad I had something to read, but in all reality, I didn't need this to talk about Officer Sorbo. There's not a person in our building that works with us doesn't know what an outstanding young man this is to my left. When you look up the word professional, this is it right here. This is the face of professionalism. Where's your mom and dad at? Raise your hand. Mr. and Mrs. Sorbo, good to see you. Sarah, where are you at? Nice to see you. Before I got hired here, I was down in Florida with my children, and we were driving back, long road with the 3 little kids in the car, and I got a phone call from a friend of mine, and he said that one of your new officers is on ABC. It was ABC Good Morning America. I said, what are you talking about? He said, one of the Shelby Township police officers was involved in a heroic incident. There was an apartment fire, and he went into the apartment fire to rescue people, got him out, and then it turned out there was an old man on the top floor, raced up there, got the old man out. Then it turned out, I think there was a dog or something up there. He went back inside of this burning apartment 3 or 4 times, and there was footage of it, and it showed Officer Sorbo climbing up, repeated. So I said, man, this is incredible. I mean, I'm walking to a brand new police department. I have a true life hero, working for us. So I called the police station and I said, this is Bob Shalide. Can you please get a message? I need to talk to Paul Sorbo. And whoever took the call was very professional, said no problem. They knew who I was, said, Chief, we'll get a message right to you. This is about a week before I was starting. And I waited about 3 days for Paul to call me back. And Paul finally called me back, and he, Paul, Mark can do the impression better than me. I am so sorry, sir. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was my shift playing a joke. I never believed that it was actually you going to be calling me, and I started thinking about this. Why don't I call the number and see what's actually going on? So Paul decided to give me a call. But I got to tell you, I had him in my office the first week, and one of our pillars is pride. Let me tell you that our executive staff glow with pride to have this young man on our staff. I mean, I have a friend of mine who's chief of police at Troy PD. He's been on the job for 40 years. He's one of the smartest men I know, Gary Mayer. And he sent me a picture. It was a text with a picture, and he said, I want to thank you for this. And what the picture was, it was outside of one of the elementary schools, and it was Officer Sorbo standing at the doorway when the kids are on the way into school in the morning, and he was standing there high-fiving them. Turned out that Gary's grandchildren go to school there. So what do you think that took for a guy to stop and send a message like that to me, take a picture of it, and let me know what he thought of that? I mean, to me, that's what we're here for, to make our children feel safe. And Paul goes and does this on his own. So, Paul, I'm very proud of you. We all are. Congratulations. Next one is our Detective of the Year, presented to Ronald Weiss. Detective Ronald Weiss has been a valued member of the Detective Bureau for over the last 12 years. His expertise is relied upon heavily in the department. Ronnie is a self-motivated, self-managed person. He has been involved with several high-profile cases in 2018, one involving 2 CSC cases resulting in a felony warrant being issued. He successfully investigated both incidences and secured a confession from the suspect. Ronnie also played an integral part in a homicide investigation. He was called upon by the prosecutor's office to become the officer in charge. Ronald prepared the case for trial and was able to deliver a key testimony that was integral in obtaining the conviction. He helped work the crime scene and followed through with the case from beginning to end, resulting in a guilty conviction on the defendant for first-degree murder. Ronnie is respected by his peers and is continually sought out to provide his opinion and knowledge. Ronald Weiss is a professional. He has a great reputation and does quality work, which makes him a valuable asset to the team and why he has earned 2018 Detective of the Year. Ronnie, come on up.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a few people here tonight. Last year about this time, I got called in for that homicide. It was at Crystal Lake. It was on St. Patrick's Day. My wife's birthday is tomorrow. We'd planned a celebration the next day. She sacrificed not celebrating her birthday that year, which was, for newlyweds. We were married for about a year. So thank you, Barb. The rest of my family is here. My mom, my dad, my mother-in-law, all my children, 7 children, and 2 of their spouses. Thank you guys for being here. I'd also be remiss to not mention the gentleman who helped with the case, the responding officers, Sergeant Barr, and I know I'm going to miss people, so forgive me for that. But Detective Killip played a huge part in this case. I was pretty much the figurehead, took over with experience. Chris had about 3 months with our unit when he got thrown into this case. He was on call. So I was assisting him. Turns out he went up deer hunting during the trial, and I had to sit in on the trial. So Chris, great job. There's also a great team of detectives that we have back there. Captain Schmittler was in charge of our unit at that time, and everybody you call comes in without a problem. We spent, I think, about 30 hours straight on this case by the time it was all said and done. But I am very proud to work here. This is a great department. Chief Shalide, when he took over, has made this department a whole different place to work. I got to tell you, Deputy Chief Coyle was with this department for a long time, waiting to just be unleashed. Like the chief said earlier, talent-wise, was just incredible. You'd sit in the office with him every day. He'd explain his visions of this department, never went anywhere. He was ready to retire. Chief comes along, promotes him. The department has flourished since then. So I'm very proud to work here. I love it here. I love this community. Thank you.
If Ron had a nickname, it would be the Iron Horse. You're talking about reliable, dependable, Mr. Steady, great personality, consummate professional. Every day he comes in with his sleeves pulled up, ready to tackle the next challenge. Like I said, Mr. Dependable. Ronnie, we're excited and thrilled to have you on the staff. We appreciate everything you do and value you greatly. Congratulations. So let me read about what's written about Mark Coyle. Deputy Chief Mark Coyle is one commander who models professionalism every day. Mark is mission-driven, leading by example, while outworking everybody around him. For years, he has helped shape the department around the chief's vision. He has done more to remove striving from the department's motto than anyone else under his command. Mark has applied modern police theories from the FBI National Academy and FLETC into effective departmental programs. Currently, he's a project head of a $3.5 million building addition. There is no better example of integrity, fair treatment of individuals, and understanding the heart behind the business of policing. He is always aware of the human side of tragedy and conflict affecting not just citizens, but also our police officers. Deputy Chief Coyle shows compassion, interest, and a genuine affection for the employees around him, and why he has earned the 2018 Commander Officer of the Year. Congratulations, Deputy Chief Coyle. Deputy Chief Coyle, who do you have with you tonight? Can you please introduce everyone?
Sure. I have my wife Sharon, my mother-in-law, my 2 nieces, Angelina, Isabella, my nephew Ryan, my sister-in-laws Becky and Jill, my brother Scott, and his lovely wife Lori. I will say this to you. As I've said at pretty much every promotional ceremony and any time I have the opportunity to speak, I don't stand before you because I'm great. I stand before you because great people raised me. There's only 2 people that I really wish were here, and that's my parents. I have accomplished nothing on my own. I've accomplished everything because I'm their son. So thank you.
I put out an email to our staff after we selected our 4 award winners, and I wanted to address some stuff with them. And I put it out, and right away, people that I talked to, I started getting emails and texts. Why did you put that out? I haven't heard anything. I said, because I want to get out in front of it. So let me tell you what the email said. A few years ago, we awarded one of the officers a Officer of the Year award, and it turned out that she didn't work the road. So when Deputy Chief Quill and I were discussing who should get the Officer of the Year award, let me tell you something. I'm very old school and old-fashioned. I was raised old-fashioned by my mother. I have old-fashioned values, and the Police Officer of the Year award should be one of our road officers, period, okay? End of story. I'm not giving that award to somebody who doesn't work the street. So Deputy Chief Coyle sat there for about, probably hours trying to persuade me why someone is worthy, doesn't work the road. And you know what? He had a compelling argument. And the bottom line is there's nobody even close to the individual. So we end up giving the award. And I'm not diminishing that award. Trust me, it was extremely well earned. Because you remember, the documentation overrode my values, if that makes any sense. Okay, this was back in 2015. So let me flash forward to 2019. So we're going through the nominations, and sure enough, there's 2 or 3 nominations for Deputy Chief Coyle from his own commanders. I got news for you, folks. I'm not giving the award to Deputy Chief Coyle, okay, the Commander of the Year. It's not happening, okay? Remember, I'm old-fashioned. I have my own values, okay? And these awards are for our commanders in the field or our detective bureau and not Deputy Chief Coyle, right? And I start listening to the, or not listening, but reading the documentation, and Mark is not going to advocate for himself. He would never do that. He's a very humble man. Like he said, his mom and dad raised him great. And I was faced with a similar issue from 2015 where, do I override my personal values to do the right thing? Okay, and well, to me, that's an easy choice. Okay, even though I'm old-fashioned, I will always do the right thing. So here's the bottom line, and let me take my glasses off to tell you this. There's nobody in the building that outworks this guy. Nobody. None of our police officers, none of our cadets, and don't get me wrong, some of our cadets are like robots. I see the one guy out running around, it's below 16 degrees, and runs out with a t-shirt on every day, walking around, doing stuff like, showing us, he wants to be here, okay? He's sitting in the back over there. I'm impressed. But the bottom line is, this man is a machine, okay? Not only is he a machine, but he's somebody I rely on night and day, 24/7. He's somebody Captain Schmiller relies on 24/7. There's a flood of people into his office on a daily basis. Not only does he care, but he has a skill set, at the heart set and the mindset to make our police department great. And I can't think of a better partner. I can honestly tell you this right now, that our Lord in heaven put Mark with me, because I would never be standing up here. I never lasted this long. I'm hyper. I got a million ideas I throw out on a daily basis, blah, blah, blah. And what Mark is able to do is Mark is able to take those 100 ideas, throw 99 of them out, and take the one idea and make it into a piece of gold. And that's what we're great at, the two of us together. So the bottom line is, and this message is not to the families, because I don't know you would understand this, but to our police officers and the commanders in the building, I made the decision because this was the right thing to do. So nobody's telling me to say this. I've never heard anybody complaining, but I want everyone to understand why I selected him for this award, and I did not write him up or tell anyone to. So just want to add that. Chaplain Mansfield, can you come up and do our final invocation closing prayer?
Before I get into the prayer, I want to close with this thought, and it comes from Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8. It says, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Who should I send? Who will go for us?' And I said, 'Here I am. Send me.'" To the officers of the Shelby Township Police Department, your families, and the staff, you are those send me people. You are the people that have stepped up to that calling to protect this community. When this community needs protection, you are the ones who have said, "Send me." With that thought in mind, let me close this in prayer. Heavenly Father, I ask that you watch over these send meers. Lord, these who have offered to stand between good and bad, between good and evil, those who are standing before us to protect us and keep us free. Lord, watch over them, their families. Lord, give them your blessing, give them your protection. Lord, I also ask that you watch over and protect our great nation. And we close this in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you. I apologize. I just have a few more remarks. The first thing I want to do, and probably the most important thing, and I did this intentionally, wait till the end, is thank our staff that put this together. I'd like them all to stand up. Wendy Davis, Michelle Jerzak, Marion Carmenagni, I'm sorry, Jim, and Patty Koenig. Please stand up, 4 of you. Yep. Ladies, all I want to tell you, you have no idea how much we appreciate you. They did all the planning for this event. The 3 of us get to, sit up here and take, looks like we're taking the credit, and trust me, all the credit belongs to our staff. Incredible what they do for us. Bonnie, where are you at? Bonnie, thanks for the cake. Bonnie's one of our retired dispatchers. She comes back for all our award ceremonies, promotions. I want to tell you a real quick story. First of all, our mission statement, our vision statement for our police department is setting the standard for law enforcement excellence in Macomb County. About a year ago, 6-8 months ago, we were striving to set the standard for excellence in Macomb County, and we removed that word. So my job as chief is to make sure that we are walking the walk and talking the talk, and it's not just words up on the wall, okay? So I was having a conversation with one of our sergeants, and anyone that knows me knows I do not want yes man around me, and if I sense you're a yes man, I'll have nothing to do with you, okay? We're never going to be great by telling me what you think I want to hear. I already told you I have crazy ideas all the time, so I need people to think, critical thinkers around me, and people looking out for the police department at all times, okay? And so I'm talking to the sergeant, and the sergeant is known for a very smart guy. He's an extremely hard worker, but he's going to pull no punches, and he says it the way it is, okay? And I know he would never tell me what he thinks I want to hear. So the bottom line is I looked him right in the face, and I said, I have a question for you. I said, are we setting the standard for excellence in Macomb County? And without hesitation, he said 100%. He said, Chief, I talk to people everywhere, blah, blah, blah. He said, we are the premier law enforcement agency in Macomb County. And let me tell you something. I believe it. Our officers in our building believe it. And if you doubt it, just look around at this event tonight. Our 4 pillars of excellence: professionalism, preparedness, teamwork, and pride. Look around you, and I ask you to challenge yourself to find a more professional-looking group of individuals. Preparedness. Not one of these awards could have been earned if these officers were not mentally and physically prepared for their duty. Teamwork. As you've heard on very few awards, you don't see many people up here by themselves. Cooperative efforts of shifts, bureaus, and teams. Collectively working together. I think this is our most important pillar personally. Pride. As we exit here tonight, I don't know how your heart cannot be filled with pride as you look around at your coworkers, your family, and know that you're a part of something larger than yourself. Tracy? While Tracy's walking up, when I was a little guy, I loved hockey. I used to watch it on TV all the time. Come on up. And I was especially, I think I was 6, 7 years old, and I was enamored with the Philadelphia Flyers, the Broad Street Bullies, okay? And I used to watch them on TV all the time, and they had this lady by the name of Kate Smith who would come on and sing God Bless America only for special big games. And she had this crazy record. When she would sing God Bless America, they were like 27-0-1, okay? And they only wheeled her out when they needed her, okay? And she'd come out in this long dress, and every once in a while, I'll put it on YouTube, and I have a tear in my eye. Well, I heard Tracy sing God Bless America a few years ago, and I almost fainted, okay? So bottom line is, we don't have this event if Tracy's not here to sing God Bless America, okay? Tracy, come on up.
Yeah. Oh, my God. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet